Hello and welcome to Channel X TV. Delighted to be joined by Colby today, all the way from the States, from Bazaarvoice. So welcome, Colby. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Chris.
And tell us a little bit about your role at Bazaarvoice. What do you do on a day-to-day basis?
Sure. So I'm the general manager for the content activation solutions team at Bazaarvoice. You can think of us as the content supply chain for retailers and brands that need user-generated content to drive their sales or build brand awareness.
And talking of content generation, you've just made an acquisition of Affable.AI. Tell us a little bit about that and what that can do for brands and retailers.
Yeah, we're very excited about this. So Affable.AI, it's an AI-driven influencer marketing platform designed to empower brands and marketers. So it combines this cutting-edge search technology that's AI-powered with a team with deep industry expertise that allows their clients, brands, agencies, retailers to optimize their influencer marketing campaigns.
And talking of influencer marketing campaign, this is what I really want to talk about today. Can you give me a bit of an idea of what you're seeing with brands and retailers and how they're using creators to deploy effectively advertising, but often it comes across much more as entertainment and engaging on different social sites? Which social sites are you seeing most traction on? Where are the brands and retailers winning, and which sort of content creators are they working with?
That's a lot of questions. I'll try to answer them in order here. So what we've seen just as an industry is that the creator marketing space has exploded in growth, both in terms of spend as well as just the number of marketers, the percentage of digital marketers that are relying on creator marketing to get their message out. What's fueling this all is it's a very effective way to build brand awareness on social media platforms, especially, I would say, Meta and TikTok are the big two. So Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok there. And what they're doing is they're finding the right creator on these social media platforms who, more importantly, have the right audience, the right target demographic that a brand or a retailer is trying to reach for any number of messages, right? And it's a very effective tool. It's got a proven ROI for digital marketing dollars. And what we've seen is that it has now grown to, I think, about a $240 billion industry that really first started, if you think about it, in the early days of social media. And it's mammoth in size today, and it's expected to double by 2027 to about $480 billion. Here in the US, we know that about 80% of brand marketers rely on creator marketing in some facet. And that's the percentage that continues to increase because it's so effective.
And this is really interesting because in the past, when an advertising agency or a retailer were thinking of advertising, they'd be looking at linear TV, ads in programs. They'd be looking at out-of-home advertising on billboards, etc. Just how much of this advertising spend is now kind of being diverted to the metas and the TikToks, and especially TikTok is of interest because we've had TikTok Shop in the UK for almost 2 years now, whereas it literally only launched a month or so ago in the US. So the opportunities in the US are going to explode on TikTok.
Yeah. I think to answer that question, you got to go to shopper psychology almost. So why are creators such an effective way for brands and retailers to communicate the message? And it comes down to trust, and it comes down to authenticity. So at Bazaarvoice, what we know to be a fact is that shoppers trust what other shoppers and creators say more about a brand's product than the brand says about itself. And just think of your own shopping behavior on that. Whom do you rely on most when you are considering purchasing any number of products or services, right? Are you more influenced by your neighbor's opinion or a television commercial? You mentioned TV. It's worth saying I spent 10 years at Disney, so I'm very familiar with the space, and I actually saw this landscape evolve and marketing shift from the sort of mass blast reach that you can get on TV to being more targeted, more ROI driven. And I think it's the same trend that's fueling the advancements in creator marketing. Within the UK specifically, Bazaarvoice, we've actually done some surveys, and we know that, as an example, about, I think it's 61% of consumers have actually made a purchase based on the recommendation of something that they saw on social media, on either TikTok or on Meta. So this isn't really like a emerging trend. This is here. This has happened, and it's continuing to grow.
And that's absolutely massive. But I'd love to dig a bit more into the creators, because the original conception of using creators was that you needed a celebrity, a pop star, or someone that's got millions of followers. But what are the most effective, and what sort of following of a creator is actually of interest? Is it that they've got 1,000 followers? Do you need someone that's got 10,000? Do you need someone that's got 1 million followers? Where is the real effective sort of creator community that's going to work best?
It depends on what the marketer's goals are. Okay, so the way that I think about this, the space really originally was termed influencer marketing, right? And it kind of started with that celebrity influencer, the person with the largest following, and brands were enticed by that because it could reach the most people. But there's really, the way that this has evolved, there's a subtle difference between influencers and creators, though people still today tend to use them interchangeably. So what we believe at Bazaarvoice is that everyone is a creator, everyone. So you can consider that as kind of the umbrella. Within creators, there's a subset of people who do creator marketing for a living, more or less. It's their full-time job. And those are the folks who have usually built up the largest audience. But the way that we think about it, everyone is a creator. They all impact shopper behavior at different levels based on how many followers they have and the type of audience behavior that they impact, the type of audience that they have. So you can sort of segment creators rather than creators versus influencers. Everyone's a creator. There are macro creators, which are probably most similar to the celebrities, right? They have the largest followers. There are micro and nano. What we've observed in the data is that, yes, you will have the highest reach by definition, right? If you're working with the macro and the micros. The micros and the nanos, which is actually where Affable plays a bigger role and where Bazaarvoice has played the biggest role, that drives a different level of authenticity and trust. It's almost like I trust you more because you have a smaller follower count. Mm-hmm. I trust that you're not saying this just because you're working directly with a brand or retailer. They do still work with brands and retailers, but it comes across as more authentic. And again, you can just think of your own behavior when you're using social media on, are you more likely to trust what a celebrity says if it's quite apparent that they are effectively commercializing something that you'd otherwise see on TV versus an influential voice in the space, someone that we'd call a micro or a nano creator who is obsessed about the space, who has every incentive in the world to tell the truth in order to build up their audience. The audience is following that person because that person's telling the truth. The person's giving them great advice. And those people are so valuable for retailers and brands to reach out to and expose their products to.
I suppose taking it to an absolute extreme, it'd be like Donald Trump promoting an air fryer towards someone that's obsessed with cooking that you follow because they're doing different recipes every day and their opinion of an air fryer. And as you say, which is more believable?
If you were to see that video versus a video from someone who has already posted 10, 15 instructional how to use your air fryer best, here are the recipes, and that person is suggesting to you what the best air fryer is in market at retail, who are you going to trust more, right? Mm-hmm. So creators sort of build this trust based on their previous posts, right? So one of the secret sauces of Affable technology and what they can do is they really match brands and retailers to the right type of creator. It's easy to find a celebrity. It's hard to find the people, those micro and nano creators who actually impact shopping behavior. And we can prove it with the data. So that's really Affable's secret sauce. One thing I forgot to mention that that makes us so excited about the Affable acquisition paired with our existing social commerce business is we don't intend to stop with what creator marketing platforms do today. So creator marketing platforms, most of them today are really designed about, building brand awareness, amplifying that message on social media. But what's unique to Bazaarvoice and what we intend to do with the Affable platform is bring in that content that's posted, yes, on TikTok, yes, on Instagram, yes, on Facebook, into our social commerce platform and allow users to, at the click of a button, get that into Bazaarvoice's retail network, our global retail network, so that the content, it's sort of like a 2-for-1. You're building brand awareness there. And if you choose to display it also on your retail site, you're getting even more bang for the buck. It's good content that can be used in multiple places. And for budget-minded marketers, especially in the environment that we're in right now, it's a heck of a value prop, and there's not that many people that can do it. In fact, I would argue that Bazaarvoice is uniquely positioned globally to do that.
Yeah, it's always been the secret of effective marketing to create once and use in multiple different places. And just think of the amount of people that are post on Instagram and post on TikTok at the same time.
That's right.
So I want to dig in a little bit about the kind of trust element for brands. Brands have spent years, whether they're a manufacturing brand or a retail brand, building up their brand image. What are you seeing about the possible reluctance to work with effectively unknown creators that they've never worked with before, especially the micro and nano creators that they're going to have very little control over? And putting their product and their brand image into the hands of these people and trusting them to kind of operate by brand guidelines? Or actually, do they need to worry about brand guidelines anymore? Or is it okay just to let these creators run with it and do what they wish?
Again, it's going to depend on the brand. It's going to depend on the retailer, and it's going to depend on how big they all are already, who their competitors are. Here's what we've observed before. I mean, this goes back years. Bazaarvoice is known for user-generated content, right? And that user-generated content comes from everyday shoppers, not even micro, nano creators on social media.
Individual consumers.
Individual consumers, right? Your next door neighbor, right? You're gonna say, hey, how's that air fryer going for you? And you're gonna trust what they say. I'm not suggesting that the brand's message itself has no value. I'm just pointing out that user-generated content in itself impacts shopper behavior. Wherever shoppers are in their shopping journey, whether they are in discovery mode or I'm one click away from purchase mode. So we know that user-generated content from everyday shoppers impacts buying behavior. Now with creators, right, it's actually another way to source content that shoppers will trust. And one of the big pros, I would posit, is that working with creators gives brands and retailers an added level of control that they don't get from everyday shoppers. A brand can't tell your neighbor what to say about the air fryer. But if a brand chooses, and they can find the right creator using Affable tech, if they choose to work with a creator for any number of reasons, whether that's building your brand, driving sales at retail, they get to select based on that creator's post history, who they are, what is the demographic of their followers. They get matched to the creator. And then as the creator starts to post, there are tools to manage the content. And there's actually an extra level of brand control, brand sign off, in working directly with the creator. Now, the creator is always going to be incented to tell the truth and be authentic to their audience. If they are not authentic, they will lose their audience. So we know that they are incented. However, there's more brand control to the brand or the retailer in working with a creator than there are everyday shoppers, right? So I would say that creators is actually an advancement towards that desire by brands and retailers to control the message than what exists today with user-generated content. 99 times out of 100, we work with thousands upon thousands of brands and retailers. They see the benefit in creating both types of content, user-generated content from everyday shoppers, as well as content from creators. And that's kind of why we call ourselves the content supply chain. You come to us, content any format from any type of shopper or creator.
I've got one final question, sure, which is for those brands, and especially I'm thinking not the sort of ginormous brands like you said you used to work for Disney, but for the smaller independent brands that haven't really got to grips with creators yet. How do they get started? Should they start working with one creator? And I know, Colby, you're going to say, come and sign up for Bazaarvoice and Affable, and we can do it all for you. But for the people that just want to
Chris,
dip their toe in the water and start.
Marketing for Bazaarvoice and Affable.
Yeah, but for the people that want to just like try it and start gently, maybe working with just one or two creators.
Yeah.
Is it worth them actually working with one or two creators, or should they be looking to like a couple of dozen or 50 creators to start with? Where's the starting point where they can really start seeing some impact and measurable ROI on their business?
If you look at how the creator marketing space has evolved, I would say the type of marketer that first adopted creator marketing were marketers from smaller brands that had to be scrappier with a more limited digital marketing budget. And they were incented to experiment because they could not afford the commercials of the NBA playoffs on television or the Super Bowl. Yeah. And what they learned early on, because they were incented to explore, is that there was tremendous bang for the buck, right? And they wanted to use that content, reuse that content as much as possible. And so they started spending more and more and more. But it started out small, and that's fine. That's actually how the creator marketing industry grew, was from the brands that you're describing. But because the ROI story is there, large brands, global corporations, they all are seeing the benefit. And in this environment where, you know, you have changes in like Apple changes its privacy rules for marketers, and more greatly limits the ability to hyper target at very specific levels to protect user privacy. I think these are all good things. They also happen to be great for creators and people looking to explore creator marketing, because you can see who the audience is of these creators.
Of course.
You can still hyper target who you're trying to reach with whatever your message is. So this is sort of a long-winded way of answering your original question of, should everyone just start out small if they're curious? And I'd say yes. And that's how the creator marketing industry has grown. And starting out small, dip your toe in the water. Hopefully you see that same ROI that over 80% of digital marketers in the US have seen, which is fueling the increase in spend in the space.
And one final little question that I should have asked before is, sure, what should a brand or retailer be expecting in terms of recompense for the creators? Should they be looking to pay them a fee per video? Should they be paying a fee per view? Should they be looking for an affiliate partnership where the creator gets a cut of the sales? Is it a mix of all of those things?
It's really a mix. It's really a mix. And it depends on, is the brand seeking to work with a macro, a micro, or a nano? what I would advise if to a brand that is thinking about first getting into the space is to understand that it's a market, right? And that someone working with a creator who has built up a following of 10 million Instagram followers is going to require a larger fee, if you will, than a nano creator who has a very loyal 10,000 follower account specific to air fryers, right? So it's a market, but one of the things that Affable technology actually allows us to do is sort of to constantly assess that market and understand how those rates are going up and down. What I would stress to that brand is use technology to understand it. Don't take on the ownership of trying to guess what the right rate is, right? Use technology to solve this problem for you. And I will just point out, Affable can do that.
Yeah. And for anyone that wants to find more, just Google Affable.AI or Bazaarvoice and you'll find more. But Colby, I want to thank you so much for your time today. It's been absolutely fascinating. And I know this is a market that is just going to grow and grow and grow. So I'm sure we'll be connecting again in the future for an update in another, I was going to say a year's time, but probably in 6 months' time, everything will have changed again.
I hope so. I think so. I agree. And thank you, Chris, for having me.